They sold me at dawn, my own blood, for scraps. Elena Cross wasn't supposed to survive what came next, the compound, the chains, the slow erasure of girls who entered and never left whole. In Iron Hollow, weak meant disposable. Unshifted meant worthless, and she was both. But the day the Alpha King walked through those gates, everything shattered. One breath, one scent, one impossible pull that rewrote the rules. They thought they were selling a broken girl to cover a debt. They had no idea what they'd just unleashed. Stay until the end, drop your city in the comments. And if this story grips you, hit that like button. You'll want to see how this ends. The cold came first. It always did in Iron Hollow, seeping through the cracks in the walls, through the threadbare blanket Elena had pulled tight around her shoulders, through the hollow space in her chest where warmth used to live. She woke before the sun, like she always did, her breath clouding in the dark room she shared with ghosts. Memories of a mother who'd died too young, a father who'd followed her into the ground, and the brothers who'd inherited everything except decency. The house smelled like mildew and old smoke. The floorboards creaked under her weight as she stood, joints protesting the cold. 23 years old, and her body moved like it belonged to someone twice her age. That's what happened when you didn't shift, when your wolf never came, when your own biology marked you as defective in a world that worshipped strength. She heard them before she saw them. Marcus and Dimitri, her brothers. Their voices carried through the thin walls, low and urgent, the kind of conversation that happened in shadows. "It's done," Marcus said. "They're coming at first light." "She doesn't know?" That was Dimitri, younger by 2 years but meaner by miles. "Why would she need to know? It's not like she has a choice." Elena's stomach dropped. She moved to the door, pressed her ear against the splintered wood. Her heart hammered against her ribs, each beat a warning she was already too late to heed. "The syndicate pays well for workers," Marcus continued. "We clear the debt, get the loan sharks off our backs, and she finally contributes something useful." Workers. The word hung in the air like a noose. Everyone in Iron Hollow knew what workers meant. Girls sent to the northern compounds, places where pack law twisted into something ugly. They called it labor, called it service. But the girls who came back, and most didn't, they came back hollowed out, eyes empty, souls scraped clean. Elena's hand trembled on the doorknob. "She's weak," Dimitri said, almost bored. "Won't last a month." "Not our problem anymore." The sound of chairs scraping, footsteps. They were coming. Elena stumbled backward, her mind racing. Run, hide, fight. None of it mattered. Where would she go? She had no money, no allies, no wolf to carry her beyond Iron Hollow's frozen borders. The town itself was a trap, and her brothers had just pulled the release. The door opened. Marcus filled the frame, broad-shouldered and cold-eyed. Behind him, Dimitri leaned against the wall, arms crossed, watching her like she was livestock being appraised. "Get dressed," Marcus said. "You're leaving." "What?" Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "There's work up north. Good pay. You'll be fine." Liar. The word burned on her tongue, but she swallowed it. Fear had teeth, and they were sinking deep. "I'm not going." Marcus's expression didn't change. "You don't have a choice. You can't just—" "We can." Dimitri pushed off the wall, stepped closer. "We own this house. We own everything Dad left. And you? You're just dead weight, Elena. Always have been." The words landed like fists. "You're selling me." "We're giving you an opportunity," Marcus corrected, but his eyes told the truth. This wasn't about opportunity. This was about debt. About desperation. About two men who'd gambled away their inheritance and needed a scapegoat to claw their way back. "Please." Hated herself for begging, but she did it anyway. "Don't do this." "Get dressed," Marcus repeated. "They'll be here soon." He turned and walked out. Dimitri lingered a moment longer, something almost like pity crossing his face before it hardened again. "Should have shifted when you had the chance," he said. "Maybe then you'd be worth keeping." The door closed. Elena stood there shaking. Not from cold this time. From rage. From terror. From the sickening realization that she'd been alone in this house for years, surrounded by family, and had somehow missed it until now. She dressed quickly, Jeans, a sweater, boots that were falling apart but still held together. She had no bags to pack, nothing worth taking. Her entire life fit into the clothes on her back, and the bitter knowledge that blood meant nothing when money talked louder. The knock came 20 minutes later. Marcus answered. Voices drifted through the house, clipped, transactional, the sound of papers shuffling, a pen scratching, a deal closing. Then footsteps. Heavy. Multiple sets. 2 men entered her room without knocking. They wore black uniforms with a silver insignia stitched on the chest, a wolf's head, fangs bared, the syndicate's mark. Elena Cross? One of them asked. She didn't answer. Come with us. And if I refuse? The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. You won't. They took her by the arms, not rough, not gentle, efficient, like this was routine, like she was cargo being loaded for transport. Marcus stood in the hallway, watching, not meeting her eyes. You'll rot for this, Elena said. Meant it. He flinched. Good. Take care of yourself, he said, and the audacity of it nearly made her laugh. They dragged her outside. The dawn was breaking, pale and cold, bleeding gray light across Iron Hollow's frozen streets. A black van idled at the curb, exhaust curling into the morning air. The back doors stood open. Inside, 3 other girls huddled on metal benches, their faces blank with shock. Elena recognized one of them. Mara, 17. Unshifted. Her family had been struggling too. The pattern was obvious now. They shoved Elena inside. She landed hard on the bench, shoulder slamming into the van's wall. The doors clanged shut behind her. A lock clicked. The engine rumbled to life. Through the small barred window, she watched Iron Hollow disappear. No one waved goodbye. The drive north took hours. No one spoke. The girls sat in silence, each lost in their own private horror. Elena's hands were numb, fingers laced together to stop the shaking. She counted her breaths, tried to think, tried to plan. But what plan existed when you had no power? The van hit a pothole, jarring them all. One of the girls whimpered. Mara stared at the floor, lips moving in what might have been a prayer. Elena didn't pray. Prayer was for people who believed someone was listening. The landscape outside shifted. Trees thickened. Snow piled higher on the roadside. They were leaving the borderlands, heading into pack territory. Deep pack territory, where laws bent around strength and tradition, where wolves ruled and humans, and the unshifted, existed at their mercy. By the time the van stopped, the sun had climbed halfway up the sky. The doors opened. Cold air rushed in, sharp enough to cut. One of the guards motioned them out. Elena stepped down onto frozen gravel, her boots crunching loud in the silence. The compound rose before them like a scar on the landscape. High walls, barbed wire, guard towers. It looked less like a workplace and more like a prison. Inside the fence, several low buildings squatted in the snow, gray and featureless. Smoke drifted from a central chimney. Move, the guard said. They were herded through the gates. Elena's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed run, but her body knew better. There was nowhere to run to. Not out here, not in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by wolves who could track a scent for miles. They entered the largest building. Inside, the air was warmer, but not by much. Rows of metal bunks lined the walls. A few girls sat on the beds, watching the new arrivals with hollow eyes. No one spoke. No one smiled. A woman appeared from a side door. Older, sharp-featured, dressed in the same black uniform. She looked them over like a rancher inspecting livestock. "Welcome to Coldridge," she said. Her voice was flat. "You'll work, you'll eat, you'll sleep, you follow orders, you don't complain, you don't run. If you try, we'll find you. And trust me, you don't want us to find you." One of the girls started crying. The woman ignored her. "You'll be assigned duties tomorrow. Tonight, you rest. Bunks are first come, first served. Dinner's at 6. Don't be late." She left. The girls scattered, claiming beds. Elena found one near the back, away from the door. She sat on the thin mattress, springs creaking under her weight. Mara took the bunk beside her. "We're not going home, are we?" Mara whispered. Elena didn't answer, couldn't, because the truth was worse than fear. Sat. The days blurred together. Wake before dawn. Work until your hands bled. Eat tasteless food. Sleep on a mattress that smelled like sweat and despair. Repeat. Elena's assignment was laundry, hauling heavy baskets of clothes, scrubbing stains until her fingers cracked, wringing out water until her arms screamed. It was brutal, mindless work designed to break you down one day at a time. Some girls tried to resist. They lasted a week, maybe two, before the guards dragged them away. No one talked about where they went. No one asked. Elena kept her head down, observed, learned. The compound operated on a strict hierarchy. At the bottom, the workers, unshifted girls like her, brought in to do the labor no one else wanted. Above them, the guards, low-ranking wolves who enforced order with fists and threats. And above them, the administrators, higher-ranking pack members who managed the operation. But the compound itself belonged to someone else. A syndicate, a network of alphas who traded in flesh and labor, who saw weakness as a commodity and fear as currency. Elena had heard whispers. Girls who'd been here longer talked in hushed voices about inspections, high-ranking visitors who came to assess the operation. And sometimes, rarely, they took girls with them. No one knew if that was better or worse. 2 weeks in, Elena found Mara in the bathroom, sobbing over the sink. What happened? Mara shook her head, tears streaming. I can't do this anymore. You have to. I'm so tired, Elena. I'm so tired. Elena didn't have words of comfort. She was tired too, bone tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that made you wonder if it was easier to just stop fighting. But something in her, stubborn and small, refused to quit. We'll get through this, she said. Didn't believe it, said it anyway. Mara looked at her like she was crazy. Maybe she was. The morning of the inspection, the guards woke them earlier than usual. Clean yourselves up, the sharp-faced woman ordered. Make yourselves presentable. And for God's sake, don't embarrass us. The girls scrambled to obey. Showers were rationed, but today they were allowed longer. Fresh clothes were distributed, still plain, still gray, but cleaner. Elena scrubbed herself until her skin turned red, braided her hair, tried to look like something other than a girl dying by inches. They were lined up in the main hall by 8. The tension was suffocating. No one spoke. Everyone stared straight ahead, waiting. The doors opened. Men entered. Wolves. Elena could tell by the way they moved, too smooth, too controlled. Power radiated off them like heat. But then he walked in, and everything stopped. Elena didn't understand it at first, just that the air changed, thickened. Every nerve in her body went on high alert, screaming danger, and something else, something she didn't have a name for. He was tall, dark-haired, dressed in black, sharp lines and authority. His eyes swept the room, cold and assessing. And then they landed on her. The world tilted. She couldn't breathe, couldn't move. His gaze pinned her in place, and for a moment, just a heartbeat. Something flickered in those ice-blue eyes. Surprise. Recognition. No, not recognition. Realization. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopped directly in front of her, close enough that she could smell him, pine and smoke and something wild. What's your name? His voice was low, controlled, but underneath she heard it, a tremor. Elena. Her voice barely worked. He stared at her, through her, into her. Then he turned to the sharp-faced woman. This one, I'm taking her. The woman blinked. Sir? Under royal authority, effective immediately. Royal authority. Murmurs rippled through the room. The other wolves exchanged glances. The sharp-faced woman opened her mouth to protest, then thought better of it. Of course, Alpha King. Alpha King. Elena's knees nearly gave out. Kyle Draven. She'd heard the name. Everyone had. The most powerful alpha in the Northern Territories. Ruthless. Untouchable. And he'd just claimed her. Come with me, he said. It wasn't a request. Elena's feet moved on instinct. She followed him out of the hall, into the cold morning air, toward a black car idling by the gates. Behind her, she heard whispers. Shock. Confusion. She didn't look back. Kyle opened the car door. Get in. She did. He slid in beside her. The driver pulled away from Coldridge, and Elena watched the compound shrink in the rearview mirror until it disappeared entirely. She should have felt relief. Instead, she felt terrified. Because girls like her didn't get rescued. They got used. And Alpha Kings didn't save broken girls out of kindness. "Why?" she whispered. Kyle didn't answer right away, just stared out the window, jaw tight. Finally, he said, "Because you're mine." The word settled into her bones like a brand, and Elena realized she'd just traded one cage for another. The silence in the car was thick enough to choke on. Elena pressed herself against the door, as far from Kyle as the confined space allowed. Her fingers dug into the leather seat, nails catching on the stitching. Every instinct told her to run, but there was nowhere to go. Not at 70 miles an hour. Not with an Alpha King sitting inches away. "Because you're mine." The words echoed in her head, each repetition making her stomach twist tighter. She risked a glance at him. He sat rigid, staring straight ahead, jaw clenched so hard she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. His hands rested on his knees, fingers curled into loose fists. He looked like a man barely holding himself together. That scared her more than anger would have. "Where are you taking me?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Somewhere safe." That's not an answer. His eyes cut to her, ice blue and sharp enough to draw blood. "It's the only answer you're getting right now." Elena's throat tightened. "You can't just—" "I can." Flat. Final. And I did. She wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but what good would it do? He'd pulled her out of Coldridge under royal authority, whatever that meant. She had no leverage, no power, nothing but the sick certainty that she'd been claimed by something far more dangerous than the compound she'd left behind. The driver, a younger wolf with nervous eyes, kept glancing in the rearview mirror. Kale noticed. "Eyes on the road, Marcus." Not her Marcus, different one. The name still made her flinch. They drove for hours. The landscape shifted from barren industrial sprawl to dense forest, mountains rising in the distance like jagged teeth. Snow fell in lazy spirals, coating everything in white. Elena's body ached. Exhaustion pulled at her, 2 weeks of brutal labor catching up all at once. Her eyes drifted shut despite her fear. She jerked awake when the car stopped. They'd arrived at a compound, but nothing like Coldridge. This was a fortress. Stone walls rose 30 feet high, topped with iron spikes. Guard towers stood at each corner, wolves visible even from the ground. Beyond the gates, she could see buildings, sleek, modern, expensive. The gates opened. They drove through. Kale didn't wait for the driver to open his door. He was out of the car before it fully stopped, moving with that unnatural wolf speed. Elena fumbled with her seatbelt, fingers clumsy. He pulled her door open. "Come." She climbed out on shaking legs. The cold hit her immediately, cutting through her thin clothes. Kale noticed. He shrugged off his coat and threw it over her shoulders before she could protest. It was still warm from his body, smelled like him. She wanted to throw it off. Wore it anyway because she was freezing and pride was a luxury she couldn't afford. "This way." He led her toward the largest building, a 3-story structure of stone and glass. Wolves watched from windows, from doorways, from the shadows. Their eyes tracked her every move. Some looked curious. Others looked hostile. All of them looked like they wanted answers. Inside, the warmth was almost painful. Elena's fingers throbbed as blood flow returned. The interior was just as impressive as the exterior. High ceilings, polished floors, furniture that probably cost more than her entire life in Iron Hollow. Kale didn't give her time to gawk. He walked fast, expecting her to keep up. She did, barely. They climbed stairs, went down a long hallway, stopped at a heavy wooden door. He pushed it open. "Your room." Elena stepped inside and nearly stopped breathing. It was bigger than the entire house she'd grown up in. A massive bed dominated one wall, piled high with blankets and pillows. A fireplace crackled in the corner. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the forest. There was a sitting area. A bathroom she could see through an open door that had actual marble. "This is a mistake," she said. "It's not. I don't belong here." "You do." He moved past her, checked the windows, the locks, making sure everything was secure. "Someone will bring you food, clothes, anything you need. What I need is answers." He stopped, turned to face her. For a moment, something cracked in that iron control. She saw exhaustion, confusion, something almost like fear. Then it was gone. "Rest," he said. "We'll talk tomorrow." "No, we'll talk now." She surprised herself with the force in her voice. "You pulled me out of that place, claimed me like I'm property, brought me here without explaining anything. I deserve to know why." Cale's eyes narrowed. "You deserve to be alive. That's what you deserve, and if I'd left you in Coldridge, you wouldn't have lasted another month." "How do you know that?" "Because I've seen what they do to girls like you." The words hung between them, heavy with meaning she didn't want to unpack. "Girls like me," she repeated. "Weak, unshifted, worthless." "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration bleeding through. "I can't explain it yet. I don't even fully understand it myself." "Try. Tomorrow. Now." "Elena." Her name on his lips sounded like a warning and a plea. "I'm trying to protect you. From them. From this situation. From me, if necessary. But I need you to trust me." "I don't know you." "I know. So why should I trust you?" He stepped closer. She forced herself not to retreat. His eyes searched her face, looking for something she didn't know how to give. "Because when I walked into that compound," he said quietly, "and I caught your scent, my wolf recognized you. And that's never happened before. Not in 200 years. Her heart stopped. "What does that mean?" "I don't know." He looked as shaken as she felt. "But I'm going to find out." He left before she could respond. The door closed with a soft click. Elena stood alone in the center of the room, trembling. Not from cold this time, from the terrifying possibility that her life had just gotten infinitely more complicated. Food arrived an hour later. A woman in her 40s, sharp-eyed and efficient, wheeled in a cart laden with dishes. She set them on the small table by the fireplace without a word, then turned to leave. "Wait," Elena said. The woman paused. "Yes?" "What's your name?" "Mira." "I'm Elena." "I know who you are. Not hostile, but not friendly either. Neutral, watchful. What is this place?" "The king's residence." "And everyone here, they're wolves?" "Most." Mira studied her with uncomfortable intensity. "You're not." It wasn't a question. "No." "Then you shouldn't be here." Mira's voice dropped. "Whatever the king thinks he's doing, it won't end well, for him or for you. Is that a threat?" "It's advice." Mira moved toward the door. "Eat, sleep, and be very careful who you trust." She left. Elena stared at the food. Her stomach growled despite her anxiety. She couldn't remember the last real meal she'd had. Coldridge served slop. Before that, her brothers barely fed her. She ate, slowly at first, then faster. Soup that actually tasted like something, bread that wasn't stale, meat that melted on her tongue. It was almost obscene. Afterward, she explored the bathroom. The bathtub alone was bigger than her bunk at Coldridge. She ran water as hot as she could stand, stripped off her clothes, and sank into it. The heat unlocked something in her chest. She started crying and couldn't stop. For the compound, for the fear, for Mara and the other girls still trapped there, for the brothers who'd sold her, for the mother she barely remembered and the father who'd given up, for herself, for the wolf that never came, for 23 years of being less than. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she dried off, put on the clean clothes someone had left folded on the counter, soft cotton that felt like luxury against her raw skin, and climbed into bed. Sleep took her hard and fast. She dreamed of wolves with ice-blue eyes and her own voice screaming words she couldn't understand. Morning came with a knock. Elena jerked awake, disoriented. For a confused moment, she thought she was back at Coldridge, and panic spiked through her. Then she saw the windows, the fireplace, remembered. "Come in," she called. Mira entered with another cart. Breakfast this time. Coffee that smelled like heaven. "The king wants to see you in an hour," Mira said. "Wear the clothes in the closet." Elena blinked. "There's a closet?" Mira pointed to a door Elena had assumed was another bathroom. "Everything should fit, more or less." She left the breakfast and disappeared. Elena found the closet. It was the size of her old bedroom, and it was full. Shirts, pants, dresses, shoes, all in her size or close enough. How had he known? She picked the simplest outfit she could find, dark jeans, a gray sweater, boots, ate quickly, drank 2 cups of coffee, and wished for a third. When the hour was up, Mira returned. Follow me. They walked through hallways that seemed designed to intimidate. Everything was too big, too grand, too much. Wolves watched from doorways. None of them smiled. Mira stopped at a set of double doors, knocked twice. Enter, Kael's voice called. Mira opened the door and gestured Elena inside. Then she closed it behind her, leaving Elena alone with the Alpha King. His office was all dark wood and leather. Books lined the walls. A massive desk dominated the center. Behind it, Kael stood at the window, hands clasped behind his back. He turned when she entered. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept, but his eyes were sharp, focused entirely on her. Sit, he said. There was a chair across from his desk. She sat. He didn't. He paced instead, a caged predator looking for an exit. I owe you an explanation, he said finally. Yes, you do. He stopped pacing, looked at her. In our world, there are bonds, connections between wolves that transcend logic. The strongest is the mate bond. When 2 wolves are compatible, they recognize each other. It's instant, undeniable. Elena's stomach dropped. No. I'm not finished. I know what you're going to say, and the answer is no. I'm not a wolf. I can't shift. Whatever you think you felt, it's not what I think. His voice cut through her panic like a blade. It's what I know. When I walked into that compound and caught your scent, my wolf recognized you as my mate. The word landed like a bomb. That's impossible, she whispered. I thought so too. He resumed pacing. Mates are always wolves. Always. But there you were, unshifted, weak, and my wolf was screaming that you belonged to me. Each word was a knife. I'm not weak, she said. Meant it. He stopped. I didn't mean, yes, you did. She stood. Her hands were shaking, but she didn't care. Everyone means it. My brothers, the guards at Coldridge, you. I'm unshifted, so I'm worthless. Defective. Something to be discarded. That's not what I think. Then why did you say it? Because it's what everyone else will think. He moved closer, and the air between them crackled with tension. Do you understand what it means for me to claim an unshifted girl as my mate? I'm the Alpha King. I'm supposed to bond with someone strong, someone who can stand beside me, lead beside me, someone who can shift. Then reject the bond. The words came out before she could stop them. Kael went very still. What? You heard me. If I'm such a liability, reject the bond. Send me somewhere safe, far from here. I didn't ask for this. I can't. You mean you won't? I mean I can't. His voice roughened, and she heard the wolf beneath it. Do you think I haven't tried? I spent all night fighting it. My wolf wants you, needs you, and the longer I'm near you, the harder it gets to... He cut himself off, stepped back. This isn't just about what I want. Then what is it about? Politics, power, survival. He dragged a hand through his hair. There are 3 other alphas vying for control of the Northern Territories. If they find out I've bonded with an unshifted girl, they'll see it as weakness. They'll challenge me, and if I fall, everything I've built falls with me. So keep me hidden. I tried. But the moment I pulled you out of Coldridge, people noticed. Questions are already being asked, and this morning, he pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, handed it to her. Elena looked at the image. It was her, being led out of Coldridge by Kael. Someone had taken the photo, and it had spread like wildfire. The caption read, Alpha King claims mystery girl. Who is she? It's already out there, Kael said, which means I need to control the narrative before someone else does. How? By presenting you to the council. Tonight. Her blood went cold. Tonight? There's a gathering. All the regional alphas will be there. If I don't introduce you, if I try to hide you, it looks weak. But if I present you as my chosen mate and make it clear that anyone who challenges that challenges me, He paused. It might buy us time. Time for what? To figure out what's really going on. He took the phone back. There's something wrong with you. Excuse me? I don't mean it like that. He was treading carefully now. But you should have shifted by now. Most wolves manifest by 18. You're 23. That's not normal. I know that. Have you ever been tested? Medically? She almost laughed. My family could barely afford food. Medical tests weren't exactly a priority. Well, they are now. He moved to his desk, pressed a button. Seconds later, the door opened and a man in a white coat entered. This is Dr. Voss, Kael said. He's going to run some tests. Now? Elena's heart hammered. Now! Dr. Voss was older, gray-haired, with kind eyes that didn't match the clinical precision of his movements. He gestured to a side door. If you'll come with me, Miss Cross. Elena looked at Kael. He nodded. She followed the doctor into an adjacent room that had been converted into a medical suite. Examination table, monitors, enough equipment to make her nervous. This won't take long, Dr. Voss said. I need to draw some blood, run a few scans. What are you looking for? Abnormalities. He prepared a syringe. May I? She held out her arm. The needle pinched. Blood filled the vial, dark and red. He took 3 more samples. Then he had her lie on the table while he ran a scanner over her body, watching a screen she couldn't see. His expression shifted. Confusion, then shock. What? Elena sat up. What is it? He didn't answer, just stared at the screen. Doctor, Voss? I need to confirm something. He drew another vial of blood, this one going into a different machine. It hummed to life. 5 minutes later, results printed. Dr. Voss read them. His face went pale. Tell me, Elena demanded. He looked at her like she was a ghost. You have wolf blood. I know that. Everyone in my family. No, you don't understand. He set down the paper with shaking hands. You have dominant wolf blood. One of the purest genetic markers I've ever seen. You should be one of the strongest shifters in the territory. The room tilted. That's impossible. I've never shifted. Not once. Because something was blocking it. He pointed to another reading. There are trace amounts of silver and wolfsbane in your system. Someone's been poisoning you. The words didn't make sense, couldn't make sense. For how long? Her voice was barely a whisper. Based on the cellular damage, years. Possibly since childhood. Elena couldn't breathe. The walls closed in. Her vision darkened at the edges. Who? She gasped. Who would... But she knew, deep down she'd always known. Her brothers, her family. They'd been poisoning her, keeping her weak, keeping her unshifted, keeping her worthless. So they could sell her. The rage that filled her was so pure, so white-hot, that for a moment she thought she might actually shift right there on the examination table. But she didn't, because years of poison didn't disappear in a moment of anger. Dr. Voss caught her as her knees buckled. Easy, easy. Sit down. Can you fix it? The question came out broken. I can try. But Elena... He made her look at him. Removing that much toxin from your system will hurt, badly, and there's no guarantee your wolf will emerge even after we do. I don't care. She meant it. Do it. It could kill you. Then I'll die. But I won't stay like this. He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. I'll prepare a treatment plan. But it will take time, weeks, maybe months, and you'll need to be monitored constantly. Fine. He helped her to her feet, led her back to Kael's office. The Alpha King looked up as they entered, saw her face, stood immediately. What happened? Someone poisoned her, Dr. Voss said bluntly. Silver and wolfsbane. For years. Kael went very, very still. When he spoke, his voice was lethal. Who? Elena's laugh was bitter. Who do you think? The people who sold me. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Then fury. Pure, controlled fury that made the air itself feel dangerous. I'll kill them, he said calmly. Get in line. Dr. Voss cleared his throat. She wants to undergo detox. I told her it's dangerous. How dangerous? She could die. Then she won't do it. You don't get to decide that. Elena snapped. This is my choice. Kale's eyes flashed. You've been in my care for less than a day. If you die, then I die. But I won't live as half a person anymore. I won't go to that council tonight as your weak, unshifted mate and let everyone look at me like I'm defective, not when I know the truth. The truth is you were sabotaged. That's not your fault. But staying sabotaged is. She stepped forward, met his gaze head on. You want me to stand beside you? Then let me be strong enough to do it. Let me fight for what was stolen from me. Silence filled the room. Finally, Kale turned to Dr. Voss. How soon can you start? Tonight, after the gathering. No, Elena said. Now. Elena. Now. Her voice cracked. Because if I have to walk into that room full of alphas knowing what was done to me, knowing I could be strong but I'm still trapped in this broken body, I won't survive it. Not mentally. So either let me start fighting back now or let me leave. Kale's jaw clenched. She saw the war in his eyes, the alpha who commanded, the mate who protected, the man who understood. Fine, he said, but I'm staying with you through every second of it. Dr. Voss looked between them. This is highly irregular. I don't care. The gathering can wait, or they can start without me. Kael's voice left no room for argument. Nothing is more important than this. Elena's chest tightened, not from fear this time, from something that felt dangerously close to hope. The treatment room was sterile and cold. Dr. Voss had Elena lie on the examination table while he prepared an IV. This is a specialized compound, he explained. It will bind to the silver and wolfsbane in your blood, neutralize them, and flush them out through your kidneys. And it's going to hurt, Elena said. Not a question. Yes. How much? He didn't sugarcoat it. Like your insides are on fire. The pain will be intense for the first few hours, then come in waves. Most people pass out. Most people aren't desperate. Kael stood in the corner, arms crossed, watching. His presence was both comforting and unnerving. Dr. Voss inserted the IV clear liquid began dripping into her veins. For the first few minutes, nothing happened. Then the burning started. It began in her arm, where the IV entered. A heat that spread up through her shoulder, into her chest. Within seconds, it was everywhere. Elena bit down on her lip hard enough to taste blood. Breathe, Dr. Voss said. Don't hold your breath. She tried. But breathing hurt. Existing hurt. The heat became fire. Her blood felt like molten metal. Every cell in her body screamed. She heard someone whimpering, realized it was her. Kael moved to her side, took her hand. His skin was cool against her burning palm. I've got you, he said quietly. The pain escalated, climbed higher. She thought she knew what suffering was. 2 weeks at Coldridge, a lifetime of neglect. But this was different. This was every nerve ending in open rebellion. She tried to pull her hand away. Kael held on tighter. You can do this, he said. You're stronger than you know. I can't. You can. Her back arched off the table. The pain was a living thing now, clawing through her, shredding her from the inside out. Dr. Voss monitored the machines. Vitals are holding. Keep going. Keep going, like she had a choice. Time became meaningless. Seconds felt like hours. Hours felt like days. Somewhere in the middle of it, Elena started screaming. She screamed until her throat was raw. Until the world narrowed to nothing but pain in Kael's hand in hers. Almost there, Dr. Voss said. Almost felt like forever. Then, finally, the fire began to recede. Slowly, inch by agonizing inch, the heat faded to warmth, warmth to nothing. She lay gasping on the table, drenched in sweat, shaking so hard the table rattled. It's done, Dr. Voss said. First round is complete. First round? Elena's voice cracked. How many are there? 3. Minimum. She started laughing. Couldn't help it. Hysterical, broken laughter that hurt her ribs. Elena, Kael's voice cut through. Look at me. She did. His eyes were fierce, proud. You survived, he said. And you'll survive the next one. And the one after that. You don't know that. Yes, I do. His thumb brushed her knuckles. Because you're mine. And I don't claim weak things. The words shouldn't have mattered, but they did. They postponed the gathering. Kale sent word that urgent matters required his attention. No one argued. No one dared. Elena spent the next 24 hours in a recovery room, hooked to monitors, drifting in and out of consciousness. The pain had faded, but exhaustion had taken its place, bone deep, absolute. Kyle stayed, slept in a chair beside her bed. Was there every time she woke. On the second day, she felt strong enough to sit up. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I got hit by a truck." She paused. "But different. Lighter, maybe. Dr. Voss says your blood work is already improving. When's the next treatment?" "Tomorrow night." She nodded, braced herself for more pain. But when tomorrow came, it was slightly easier. The fire still burned, but she knew what to expect. Knew she could survive it. By the third treatment, she didn't scream once. Dr. Voss ran tests after each session. The silver and wolfsbane levels dropped steadily. Her blood began to look normal, healthy. "Your wolf might emerge soon," he warned. "When it does, it will be intense. You'll need space, control." "Will it hurt?" "First shift always does." Of course it did. Nothing in her life came easy. On the fifth day, Kyle told her the gathering had been rescheduled. "Tonight," he said. "Can you handle it?" Elena looked at herself in the mirror. She'd gained weight. Her skin had color again. Her eyes looked clear for the first time in years. "I can handle it," she said. He studied her carefully. "There will be questions, challenges. Some of the alphas will try to undermine you. Let them try. Elena, I'm not afraid anymore." And she meant it. "They can think what they want, say what they want. I know the truth now, and soon I'll prove it." His expression shifted. Something like pride crossed his face. "Then let's show them what they're dealing with," he said. That night, Elena dressed in the finest clothes the closet offered. A deep blue dress that hugged her frame, heels that made her tall, hair pulled back to show her face. She looked like someone who mattered. Felt like it too. Kyle met her at her door. He wore all black, severe and commanding. When he saw her, something flickered in his eyes. "You look—" He stopped. Started again. "You look like a queen." "I'm not a queen yet." "No," he agreed. "But you will be." They walked together through the fortress. Wolves stared, whispered, but Elena kept her head high. The gathering was held in a massive hall. Hundreds of wolves packed the space, alphas, their seconds, advisors, mates. The noise was overwhelming. When Kyle entered with Elena at his side, silence fell. Every eye turned toward them. Kale led her to the center of the room where three other alphas waited. They looked her over with undisguised contempt. "This is the girl?" one of them said. "Tall, scarred, mean-eyed. The unshifted mate you've been hiding?" "I haven't been hiding anyone," Kyle said calmly. "This is Elena Cross, my chosen mate. You'll show her respect." "Respect?" The alpha laughed. "For a human? She's not human. Then let her shift." The room went still. Elena felt every gaze on her, waiting, judging. She could have stayed silent, could have let Kyle handle it. Instead, she stepped forward. "I can't shift," she said clearly. "Yet, because my family poisoned me for years to keep me weak, to keep me sellable. But that ends now." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The scarred alpha sneered. "A convenient excuse. It's the truth. And when my wolf emerges, and it will, I'll be happy to prove it to you personally." His eyes narrowed. "Is that a challenge?" "It's a promise." Kale's hand found the small of her back. Support. Warning. But Elena didn't back down. The scarred alpha stepped closer, loomed over her. "You have no idea what you're inviting, little girl. Try me." For a heartbeat, she thought he might actually attack. Then Kale moved. Faster than thought. He was between them in an instant, and the dominance that rolled off him made the entire room take a step back. "Enough," he said quietly, but the word carried like thunder. "Touch her, threaten her, even look at her wrong, and I'll take it as a declaration of war. Is that clear?" The scarred alpha hesitated, then stepped back. "Clear," he muttered. Kyle turned to face the room. "Elena is mine. Under my protection, under my authority. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me directly. No one moved. Good. He took Elena's hand. This gathering is over. He let her out. The crowd parted like water. They didn't stop until they were back in his office. Door closed, the world shut out. Elena's hands were shaking. Adrenaline crashed through her. That was reckless, Kael said. That was necessary. You challenged an alpha in front of the entire council. And I'd do it again. She met his eyes. I'm not going to cower, not anymore. They either accept me or they don't, but I won't apologize for existing. Kael stared at her. Then, impossibly, he smiled. You're going to be dangerous when your wolf comes. Good, she said. Let them be afraid. And in that moment, standing in the office of the Alpha King, still shaking from her first real act of defiance, Elena felt something shift inside her. Deep, primal, waiting. Her wolf stirred, and it was hungry. Her wolf stirred. Not gently, not like a whisper or a half-forgotten dream. It moved inside her like something clawing its way out of a grave, furious, starving, desperate for freedom after years of forced sleep. Elena gasped. Her knees buckled. Kael caught her before she hit the floor. What's wrong? I don't... Pain lanced through her spine, sharp, hot. She couldn't breathe. Something's happening. Dr. Voss! Kael's voice cracked like a whip. The door burst open. The doctor rushed in, took one look at Elena doubled over in Kael's arms, and cursed. Get her to the medical wing, now! Kael lifted her like she weighed nothing. The world blurred. Hallways, stairs, voices shouting orders. Then the familiar sterile smell of the medical suite. He laid her on the examination table. She curled into herself, arms wrapped around her middle. The pain was different from the detox, deeper, like something inside her was trying to break through bone. Dr. Voss hooked her up to monitors. Her vitals are spiking, heart rate 160 and climbing. What's happening to her? Kael demanded. Her wolf is waking up. Dr. Voss prepared a syringe. But it's happening too fast. Her body isn't ready. No. Elena forced the word out through clenched teeth. No sedatives. Elena, if you shift now, you could... I don't care. She grabbed his wrist. Her grip was stronger than it should have been. Let it happen. You'll break every bone in your body. Then they'll heal. She looked at Kael. Right? Wolves heal. His face was rigid with fear. Not always fast enough. I'm doing this. She released Dr. Voss. Either help me or get out. The two men exchanged glances. Clear the room, Kael said quietly. Everyone except me. Dr. Voss hesitated. If something goes wrong, then I'll handle it. Alpha command bled into his voice. No room for argument. The doctor left. The door closed. Kael knelt beside the table, took her hand. You don't have to prove anything tonight. Yes, I do. Another wave of pain. She bit down on a scream. You saw how they looked at me, like I was a joke, a liability. I need to show them... Her back arched. I need to show everyone. You could die. I've been dying for years. She met his eyes. This is the first time I've felt alive. He wanted to argue. She saw it in his face, but he didn't. Instead, he said, then I'll stay with you through it. It might get ugly. I don't care. The pain intensified. Elena felt something shift beneath her skin, not just muscle, but the architecture of her entire body preparing to transform into something new. Her bones ached. Her blood felt too hot. Talk to me, Kael said. Stay present. Don't let the wolf take over completely. How do I... She gasped. How do I stop it? You don't. You guide it. His voice was steady, calm, an anchor in the chaos. First shift is always violent. You can't control it, but you can survive it. Focus on my voice. Focus on anything human. Human. She didn't feel human. She felt like something wild and ancient was tearing through her, reclaiming territory it had been forced to abandon. Her fingers cramped. She looked down and saw them lengthening, claws pushing through the nail beds, blood welled up, dark and red. It's starting, she whispered. I know. Breathe. Just breathe. But breathing was agony. Her ribs were expanding, reshaping. Her spine curved in ways it wasn't meant to. She heard cracking, loud, wet sounds that her brain insisted meant breaking, but her instincts knew meant change. She screamed. The sound tore out of her, half human and half something else. Feral, raw. Fur erupted along her arms. White blonde, the color of winter. Her vision sharpened, colors bleeding into something more vivid. She could smell everything, Kael's fear, the antiseptic, her own blood. "You're okay," Kael said, but his voice was tight. "You're doing fine." She wasn't fine. She was being unmade and remade. Every cell in her body was rewriting itself, her face elongated, jaw stretching, teeth sharpening. She tasted copper and salt. The table beneath her groaned. Her weight was increasing, muscle mass building at an impossible rate. And then the final shift, her legs snapping backward, reforming into haunches, her spine extending, tail erupting from the base of her back. The pain crescendoed into something beyond comprehension. Then it stopped. Elena stood on 4 legs, panting. The table had collapsed beneath her. She was massive, larger than she'd expected, larger than seemed possible. She turned her head, catching her reflection in the glass of a cabinet. A wolf stared back. White blonde fur. Ice blue eyes. Built like she was meant to hunt things bigger than deer. Kael stood frozen, staring at her. "Elena?" His voice was hushed, reverent. "Can you hear me?" She tried to speak. What came out was a low rumble that vibrated through her chest. "Easy." He held up his hands. "Don't try to shift back yet. Your body needs time to adjust." But Elena's wolf had other ideas. It had been caged for 23 years. It wasn't interested in being careful. She moved, testing her new body. Her paws were huge, claws scraping against the tile. Everything felt different. Balance, strength, the way her senses flooded her with information. She could hear Kael's heartbeat, could smell his wolf beneath his skin, and she could smell something else, something wrong. Her ears swiveled toward the door. "What is it?" Kael tensed. She growled, low, warning. He moved to the door, opened it. Voices in the hallway, raised, angry. "Can't just barge in here? We have every right. The king's judgment is compromised." Footsteps, multiple sets, coming closer. Kael's expression darkened. "Stay here." He left the room. Elena heard the confrontation escalate immediately. "What is the meaning of this?" Kael's voice was ice. "We demand to see the girl," the scarred alpha from the gathering. "Rumors are spreading that she's shifted. We want proof." "You want nothing. Get out of my home." "Your home is pack territory. We have a right to verify the claims you've made." "I don't answer to you, Gregor." "Maybe you should." Gregor's voice dropped. Dangerous. "You've bonded with an outsider. Made her your mate without consulting the council. If she's as strong as you claim, prove it. If she's not, then this bond is a farce, and your position is forfeit." Silence. Elena's wolf snarled. She didn't understand pack politics. Didn't care. But she understood threat. And Gregor was threatening Kael. She moved before thought, shouldered through the door. It splintered under her weight. The hallway went silent. 5 wolves stood there. Gregor in front, 4 others behind him. All of them stared at Elena. She was bigger than all of them. Gregor's expression shifted. Shock, then fear, then anger. "Impossible," he breathed. "She's—" Elena didn't let him finish. She lunged. Not to kill, just to make a point. She slammed into him, drove him back against the wall. Her jaws snapped inches from his throat. A warning. "Touch him and I'll rip you apart." Gregor went very still. His wolf was there, just beneath the surface, but he didn't shift. Didn't dare. "Elena." Kael's voice cut through the red haze. "Stand down." She didn't want to. Her wolf wanted blood, wanted to teach this male what happened when you threatened her mate. "Elena, please." The word, please, got through. She backed off, slowly, kept herself between Kael and the others. Gregor slid down the wall, breathing hard. When he looked at Elena now, there was no contempt, only recognition. "Dominant bloodline," he whispered. "Pure strain, she's—" He swallowed. "She's royalty." The other wolves murmured. Shocked, awed. Kael stepped forward. "Get out, all of you, now." They fled. Elena stood there, sides heaving. The adrenaline was fading, leaving exhaustion in its wake. She felt the shift pulling at her. Her body wanted to return to human form. "Let it happen," Kael said softly. "I've got you." The transformation back was faster. Painful, but manageable. Bones reshaping, fur receding, claws retracting. When it was over, Elena collapsed naked on the floor, shaking. Kael caught her, wrapped his coat around her, lifted her gently. "You just threatened a Council Alpha," he said. "He threatened you first. That was reckless. That was necessary." She was too tired to argue. "Did you see his face?" "I did." "Good. Let him spread the word. I'm not weak. Not anymore." Kael carried her back to her room, set her on the bed. She should have been embarrassed, naked, vulnerable, barely conscious, but she wasn't. She'd shifted. After 23 years, her wolf had finally emerged, and it was magnificent. What? The next morning, everything changed. Elena woke to voices outside her door. Arguing, heated. She pulled on clothes. Her muscles ached, but in a good way, like she'd used parts of herself that had been dormant, and opened the door. Mira stood there, blocking 3 wolves Elena didn't recognize. "She's not receiving visitors," Mira said firmly. "We're not asking." Elena stepped into view. "What do you want?" The wolves stared. One of them, a woman in her 30s, hard-eyed and scarred, spoke first. "We want to know if it's true." "If what's true?" "That you were poisoned, that you're one of us." Elena studied them. They looked desperate, hungry for something she didn't understand yet. "Yes," she said. "To both." The woman's expression cracked. "We need your help." "With what?" "There are others, girls like you, being held in compounds across the territory, poisoned, suppressed, sold." Her voice shook. "My daughter is in one. She's 16, unshifted. They took her 3 months ago, and I haven't heard from her since." Elena's blood went cold. "Which compound?" "Coldridge." The name hit like a fist. Mara, the other girls, still trapped. "I'll help," Elena said. "You can't promise that." Kyle's voice came from behind her. He'd appeared without sound, fully dressed, looking like he hadn't slept. "Elena, a word." She followed him back into her room. The door closed. "You can't just agree to rescue missions," he said. "Why not?" "Because it's dangerous. You shifted for the first time last night. You have no control." "I have enough control to know what's right." She crossed her arms. "Those girls are still there, being broken down piece by piece. I was one of them a week ago. How can I just—" Her throat tightened. "How can I do nothing?" "I'm not saying do nothing. I'm saying be smart about it." "Smart like what? Form a committee? File a complaint?" She shook her head. "These are syndicate operations. They have lawyers, protection. The only reason you could pull me out was because you're the Alpha King. Those other girls don't have that." "Exactly. Which is why charging in will get you killed." "Then what do you suggest?" He was quiet for a long moment. "We build a case, gather evidence, expose the syndicate for what it is, force the council to act. That could take months." "Yes. Those girls don't have months." His jaw tightened. "I know." "Then let me go get them." "Absolutely not." "KL, no." He stepped closer. "You just shifted. You're still recovering from detox. You're vulnerable. And if something happens to you—" He stopped, started again. "I can't lose you." The raw honesty in his voice made her pause. "I'm not asking for permission," she said quietly. "I'm telling you what I'm going to do. You can help me or you can watch me walk out that door alone." "That's not fair." "Nothing about this is fair." She moved to the window, looked out at the forest beyond. "I spent 23 years being powerless, being told what I could and couldn't do. My brothers made decisions for me. The compound made decisions for me. Even you, with the best intentions, want to make decisions for me." She turned to face him. "I won't live like that anymore." Kael stared at her. War played out across his face. Finally, he said, "If we do this, we do it right. No rushing in. We plan. We prepare." "How long?" 3 days. 2. "Elena, 2 days or I go alone. Tonight." His eyes flashed. You're impossible. I'm free. There's a difference. He ran a hand through his hair. Fine. 2 days. But you train with me every hour you're not recovering. If you're going into a fight, you need to know how to use that wolf. Deal. They shook on it. His hand was warm, rough, with calluses. When he didn't let go immediately, Elena felt that pull again, the bond humming between them. I meant what I said, Kyle murmured. I can't lose you. You won't. You don't know that. No. But I know I'd rather die trying to save those girls than live knowing I abandoned them. He pulled her closer, close enough that she could feel his breath on her face. You're going to destroy me. Good, she whispered. Maybe we'll destroy each other. His kiss was fierce, desperate, like he was trying to pour every unspoken word into it. When they broke apart, Elena was shaking. 2 days, Kyle said. Then we bring them home. Training was brutal. Kale didn't hold back. He pushed her to shift again and again, teaching her control. How to call the wolf. How to send it back. How to fight on 4 legs. She was clumsy at first. Her wolf was strong but unpracticed. She stumbled, fell, got back up. Kale corrected her stance, her balance, her attack patterns. You're thinking like a human, he said, after she missed him for the 3rd time. Stop using strategy. Let your instincts guide you. My instincts say bite everything. Then bite smarter. By the end of the first day, she was covered in bruises. But she was faster, stronger. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Coldridge, about Mara, about what 2 more days of hell meant for girls already at their breaking point. She slipped out of her room, wandered the fortress halls, found herself in Kyle's office. He was there, bent over paperwork. He looked up when she entered. Can't sleep either? He asked. Too much in my head. He pushed a chair toward her. She sat. For a while they didn't talk, just existed in the same space, the silence comfortable. Then Kyle said, I've been making calls, pulling information on Coldridge's operations. Elena straightened. And? Security is tighter than I thought. 20 guards, reinforced walls. They're expecting trouble. From who? From me. He set down his pen. Word got out about your shift, about your bloodline. The syndicate knows I'll come for them eventually. They're preparing. So we hit them before they're ready. We hit them smart. He pulled out a map, spread it across the desk. There's a service entrance here, minimal guards. If we can get inside, disable their communications, we can extract the girls before they mount a real defense. How many people do we need? 10, maybe 12, all experienced fighters. And you trust them? With my life. What about with mine? He looked at her. Yes, I wouldn't bring anyone who'd hesitate to protect you. She studied the map, memorized the layout. When do we leave? Tomorrow night, after dark. Less than 2 days, close enough. I'll be ready, she said. I know you will. He hesitated. Elena, if this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, then we'll deal with it, together. He reached across the desk, took her hand. I've lived 200 years, fought wars, built kingdoms, and I've never been more terrified than I am right now. Why? Because I've never had something worth losing before. The words hit her chest like a hammer. She stood, walked around the desk. Kale's eyes tracked her movement. When she kissed him, it was different from before, slower, deeper, a promise instead of a question. You're not going to lose me, she said against his mouth. I'm too stubborn to die. His laugh was low, broken. I'm counting on it. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, stealing time, until dawn crept through the windows. The next day passed in a blur of final preparations. Weapons checked, routes memorized, teams assembled. Elena met the wolves who'd be coming with them, hard-faced fighters who looked at her with a mix of respect and curiosity. She was still new, still untested in real combat, but she'd earned her place, and they knew it. That evening, as the sun set, Kyle gathered everyone in the armory. Our target is Coldridge, he said. We go in fast. Extract the girls. Get out before they can mount a real response. No unnecessary violence, no heroics. We work as a unit. The wolves nodded. Kale turned to Elena. You're with me. Stay close. Don't engage unless absolutely necessary. I'm not staying on the sidelines. I didn't say you were. I said stay close. His eyes held hers. Please. She nodded. They loaded into vehicles. 3 SUVs, blacked out, silent. The drive north was tense. No one spoke. Elena watched the landscape change, familiar now. Coldridge was only 2 hours from Kael's fortress, close enough to haunt her. When they arrived, the compound looked exactly as she remembered. Gray, ugly, a scar on the earth. They parked a mile out, approached on foot. Kyle shifted first, then the others. Elena followed, calling her wolf with an ease that surprised her. The transformation was faster this time, less painful. Her body knew what to do. They moved through the forest like shadows, silent, deadly. The service entrance came into view. 2 guards stood watch. Kyle gave the signal. 2 of his wolves broke off, circled around. Seconds later, the guards went down without a sound. They slipped inside. The compound was quiet. Most of the girls would be in their bunks. Guards on patrol would be few. But something felt wrong. Elena's wolf sensed it. The air was too still, too empty. They moved deeper. Found the barracks, kicked open the door. The room was empty. No girls, no bunks, nothing. It's a trap, Kael snarled. Lights blazed on. Alarms shrieked. Guards poured in from every entrance, 20, 30, more. And in the center of them, smiling, stood Gregor. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you planning a raid? He said. I've been working with the syndicate for years. They pay well for information. Kael's wolf lunged. Gregor shifted, met him midair. Chaos erupted. Elena fought on instinct. Claws and teeth. Her wolf was fast, vicious, fueled by rage. But they were outnumbered. She saw one of Kael's wolves go down. Then another. Fall back, Kael roared, but there was nowhere to fall back to. They were surrounded. Elena felt jaws close on her hind leg. Pain exploded. She twisted, snapped at her attacker. Connected. Tasted blood. Then someone hit her from the side. She went down hard. A wolf stood over her. Gregor. The king's little pet, he growled. Not so tough now. He went for her throat. Elena rolled. His teeth caught fur instead of flesh. She scrambled to her feet, but her leg was bleeding badly. She couldn't put weight on it. Gregor circled her. I'm going to enjoy this. Kael was fighting 3 wolves at once, couldn't reach her. Elena's vision blurred, from blood loss, from fear. Her wolf refused to quit. Gregor lunged. Elena met him head on. They collided in a tangle of fur and fury. She was smaller, but faster. Used it. Went low, under his guard. Found his belly. Tore. Gregor howled. Staggered back. Elena pressed the advantage, drove him into the wall. Her jaws found his throat. 1 bite. That's all it would take. Elena, don't! Kael's voice cut through. She hesitated. Gregor used that moment, threw her off. She hit the ground hard enough to see stars. He stood over her, bleeding, furious. You should have killed me. Yeah, Elena gasped. I should have. He raised a paw to finish it. A gunshot cracked through the chaos. Gregor dropped. Elena looked up. Mira stood in the doorway, holding a rifle. Behind her, a dozen more wolves, Kael's reinforcements. The tide turned fast. Gregor's mercenaries broke. Ran. Kael shifted back to human, rushed to Elena's side. Are you hurt? My leg. She shifted back. The wound looked worse in human form. Deep gashes, bone visible. We need to move. Now. He lifted her, shouted orders. Secure the area. Find the girls. Burn this place to the ground. His wolves scattered. Elena clung to Kael, consciousness fading. The girls, we'll find them, I promise. Mara, we'll find her. Darkness pulled at the edges of her vision. The last thing she heard was Kael's voice, ragged with fear. Stay with me. Elena, stay with me. Then nothing. Pain dragged her back to consciousness, not the searing fire of detox or the breaking agony of her first shift. This was different, sharp and focused, concentrated in her left leg like someone had driven hot iron through muscle and bone. Elena's eyes opened to harsh fluorescent light. The medical suite. Again. Dr. Voss's face swam into view. "Welcome back." She tried to sit up. Her body refused to cooperate. "Easy." The doctor placed a hand on her shoulder. "You've been out for 18 hours. Your leg was badly damaged. We had to operate." "The girls!" Her voice came out like gravel. "Did they find—" "They found them!" Cale's voice cut through from somewhere to her right. "All of them." Relief hit so hard she almost blacked out again. Footsteps. Then Kyle was there, looking like he'd aged 10 years overnight. His eyes were bloodshot, jaw dark with stubble. He took her hand carefully, like she might shatter. "Gregor?" she asked. "Alive. Barely. In custody." His grip tightened. "He's talking, giving us names. The entire syndicate operation is unraveling." "Good." She looked down at her leg. It was wrapped in so many bandages she couldn't see the damage. "How bad?" Dr. Voss and Cale exchanged glances. "Tell me," she said. "The tendons were severed," Dr. Voss said carefully. "In a human, that would mean permanent disability. But you're a wolf now. Your healing factor is remarkable. With time and physical therapy—" "How long?" 6 weeks. Maybe 8. Elena's laugh was bitter. "We don't have 8 weeks." "You don't have a choice," Kyle said. "Your body needs to heal." "My body can heal while I'm working." She pushed herself up despite the protest of every muscle. The room spun, but she stayed conscious through sheer stubbornness. "Where are the girls?" "In the East Wing, being processed, evaluated. I need to see them." "Elena, I need to see them now." Kyle looked at Dr. Voss. The doctor sighed. "Against my medical advice, but fine. Use the wheelchair." Elena wanted to argue. Her pride screamed at the idea of being wheeled around like an invalid. But her leg wasn't bearing weight yet, and collapsing on the floor would prove nothing. She let them help her into the chair. Cale pushed her himself. They moved through hallways that felt different now, less like a fortress and more like something that could become home. Wolves they passed didn't sneer or judge. They nodded, respectful. Word had spread about what happened at Coldridge, about Elena throwing herself into a fight despite being barely trained, about her taking down Gregor long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The East Wing had been converted into temporary housing. Rows of beds lined the walls, each occupied. Elena counted 23 girls. Some were sleeping. Others sat awake, staring at nothing with hollow eyes she recognized too well. Mira was there, moving between beds with blankets and water. She saw Elena and crossed over. "They're safe. Traumatized, but safe." "Have they been tested?" Elena asked. "For poisoning?" Dr. Voss ran preliminary screenings on all of them. 15 show traces of silver and wolfsbane in their systems. 15, more than half. "Start detox protocols," Elena said. Mira hesitated. "That's not my call to make." "Then whose call is it?" "Mine." Cale's voice was measured. "And I agree. Start the protocols, but carefully. We can't risk overwhelming their systems." Mira nodded and walked away. Elena scanned the room, searching. Then she saw her. Mara, sitting on a bed near the back, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the wall. "Take me over there," Elena said. Cale wheeled her across the room. Several girls looked up as they passed. One of them, a teenager with bruises on her arms, whispered, "That's her, the one who came back." They stopped beside Mara's bed. "Hey," Elena said softly. Mara's head turned slowly. Recognition flickered, then her face crumpled. "You came back," she whispered. "You actually came back. I told you I would." "No one comes back," Mara's voice broke. "No one." Elena reached out. Mara grabbed her hand like a lifeline. "I'm here," Elena said. "And you're safe, I promise." "They said—" Mara's breath hitched. "They said you were claimed by the Alpha King, that you'd forget about us." "I could never forget." Tears spilled down Mara's cheeks. "I thought I was going to die there." "You're not going to die. None of you are." Elena squeezed her hand. "And if you've been poisoned like I was, we're going to fix it. You're going to shift. You're going to be strong." I don't feel strong. You will. Elena looked around at the other girls watching them, raised her voice slightly. All of you will. What they did to us, the poison, the abuse, the lies, that ends now. You're under the protection of the Alpha King. Anyone who tries to hurt you again will answer to him. And to me. Some of the girls looked skeptical. Others looked hopeful. One girl near the front spoke up. Why should we trust you? You're one of them now. A wolf. Probably forgot what it's like to be powerless. The accusation stung because it was fair. You're right, Elena said. I shifted. I got stronger. But it took 23 years and almost dying to get here, and every single day before that, I was exactly where you are now. Scared, angry, convinced I was broken. She paused. I'm not asking you to trust me because I'm strong now. I'm asking you to trust me because I remember what it's like to have nothing, and I'm going to make sure none of you feel that way again. The room was silent. Then the girl who'd challenged her stood, walked over, stuck out her hand. I'm Kara, she said. If you're serious about helping us, I'm in. Elena shook her hand. I'm serious. One by one, other girls approached, introduced themselves. Some cried. Some stayed silent. But they came. By the time Elena left the East Wing, her throat was tight with emotion and her leg was screaming in protest. Cale wheeled her back to her room without a word, helped her back into bed, sat beside her as exhaustion pulled her under again. You're going to change everything, he said quietly. I'm going to try. That's more than most people do. She wanted to respond, but sleep took her first. The next 3 days were chaos. News of the Coldridge raid spread like wildfire, not just through Kael's territory, but beyond. Other compounds started reporting disturbances. Girls who'd heard about the rescue were resisting. Guards were losing control. The syndicate was hemorrhaging operations, and they were furious. On the fourth morning, Elena woke to shouting in the hallway. She grabbed the crutches Dr. Voss had grudgingly provided and made her way to Kael's office. The door was open. Inside, Kael faced 3 men in expensive suits. Lawyers, by the look of them. Cannot simply raid private facilities without due process, one of them was saying. Our clients have rights. Your clients are slavers, Kael said flatly. They poisoned minors, sold them into forced labor. I have documentation, medical evidence, testimony. Allegations that will be challenged in court. Good, I'm looking forward to it. The lawyer's expression hardened. The council will not support this crusade of yours. You've overstepped your authority. I've exercised my authority exactly as intended, to protect PAC members from exploitation. These girls aren't PAC members. They are now. Kael's voice dropped into Alpha Command. Every single one of them is under my protection, which makes them my responsibility. Anyone who has a problem with that can challenge me directly. The lawyers exchanged glances. Clearly, they hadn't expected that. This isn't over, one of them said. No, Kael agreed. It's just beginning. Now get out. They left. Kael saw Elena in the doorway, and some of the tension bled from his shoulders. How much of that did you hear? He asked. Enough. She hobbled in, sat heavily in the chair across from his desk. They're going to fight us. Of course they are. We just destroyed a multi-million-dollar operation. Can we win? Legally? Maybe. The evidence is solid, but the syndicate has deep pockets and deeper connections. He leaned back. This is going to get ugly. It's already ugly. It's going to get worse. He studied her. How's the leg? Terrible. How's your ego after threatening lawyers? His smile was brief. Intact. Barely. A knock on the door. Mira entered without waiting for permission. There's someone here to see you, she said to Elena. She says she's from Iron Hollow. Elena's blood went cold. Who? A woman named Sarah Cross. The room tilted. Sarah Cross. Her mother's younger sister. Elena hadn't seen her in over a decade. Hadn't even known she was alive. Send her in, Elena said. Mira disappeared. Moments later, a woman in her 40s entered. She had the same dark hair as Elena's mother, the same sharp cheekbones. But where Elena's mother had been soft, Sarah was hard edges and survival. Elena. Sarah's eyes were wet. I heard what happened, what you did. What do you want? Elena kept her voice flat, neutral. This woman had abandoned them years ago, had vanished when things got hard. I want to help. Why? Sarah flinched. Because I should have helped before. When your mother died. When your father gave up. When your brothers... Oh. She stopped, swallowed hard. I was a coward. I left because I couldn't watch what they were doing to you. And now? Now I'm here, and I brought information. Sarah pulled out a folder, set it on Cale's desk. About your brothers, about what they've been doing. Elena opened the folder. Inside were documents, contracts, bank statements. They've been selling girls for years, Sarah said quietly. You weren't the first, just the one I knew about. They have contacts throughout the region, a whole network. Elena's hands shook as she read. Dates, names, amounts. Her brothers had been profiting off trafficking for at least 5 years. Why now? Elena asked. Why bring this to me now? Because you're strong enough to do something about it. Sarah's voice cracked. And because I'm tired of pretending I don't see what's happening. Elena looked at Kyle. He was reading over her shoulder, expression darkening with each page. This is enough to bring them up on criminal charges, he said. Multiple counts. They'd be looking at life sentences. Good, Elena said. The word came out cold. Final. Sarah nodded. There's more. The syndicate is planning to retaliate. Not legally. They're putting together a strike team, targeting this fortress. They want to take you out before you can expose them completely. When? Kyle's voice was sharp. Soon. Days, maybe hours. I don't have specifics. Kyle was already moving, pressing buttons, speaking into an intercom. Lock down the compound, full security protocols. No one in or out without my direct authorization. Alarms began to sound. Sarah backed toward the door. I should go. You'll stay, Elena said. In protective custody. If they're planning a strike, you're a target too. Sarah looked surprised. You don't owe me protection. No, but you brought us intelligence that might save lives. That earns you safety. Elena paused. And despite everything, you're family. Sarah's composure cracked. Thank you. Mira appeared again. I'll take her to secure quarters. They left. Elena and Kyle were alone. This changes things, he said. Everything changes things lately. I'm serious. If they're coming here, then we'll be ready. Elena stood, balanced on her crutches. We have 23 girls in the East Wing who can't defend themselves. We have your pack. We have walls and weapons. And you have a shredded leg. I can still fight. Elena, don't. She cut him off. Don't tell me to hide. Don't tell me to stay safe. I'm done with that. He studied her. You know this could end badly. But everything could end badly. That's not a reason to do nothing. His expression shifted, resignation mixed with something that looked like pride. You're the most stubborn person I've ever met. Thank you. It wasn't a compliment. I'm taking it as one anyway. The intercom crackled. Sir, we have movement on the perimeter, multiple vehicles approaching. Cale's eyes snapped to the window. How many? At least 6, armed personnel. Here we go, Elena muttered. Cale grabbed a radio. All units to defensive positions. Protect the East Wing at all costs. No one gets through. The compound exploded into motion. Wolves ran past the office. Weapons were distributed. The fortress transformed into a war zone in minutes. Stay here, Cale said to Elena. Absolutely not. Elena, I said no. She grabbed his arm. I'm not staying behind while people fight for something I started. You can barely walk. Then give me a gun. He stared at her. You're going to get yourself killed. Probably. But I'd rather die fighting than live hiding. For a moment, she thought he'd argue. Force her to stay. Instead, he pulled a pistol from his desk drawer, checked the magazine, handed it to her. Safety's here. Don't shoot unless you have to. And for the love of everything, his voice roughened, don't make me watch you die. I'll do my best. They moved together toward the East Wing. Elena's legs screamed with every step, but she gritted her teeth and kept going. Outside, the first shots rang out. The attack was coordinated, professional. The syndicate had sent mercenaries, humans with military-grade weapons. They knew they couldn't match wolves in close combat, so they were keeping distance, picking off defenders from range. Kyle shifted and disappeared into the chaos. Elena positioned herself at the entrance to the east wing. Inside, the girls huddled together, terrified. Mara appeared at her side. "What can we do? Stay low, stay quiet. If anyone gets through, you run." "What about you?" "I'll slow them down." Kara pushed forward. "Give me a weapon. I'm not hiding while you fight." Elena hesitated, then handed her the crutch. "Use this. Aim for knees or throats." Kara took it. "What about you?" Elena leaned against the wall for balance, raised the pistol. "I've got this." More shots, closer now. A window shattered. Smoke grenades rolled in. Elena fired blind. The pistol kicked hard. She had no idea if she hit anything. Through the smoke, shapes moved. 3 men in tactical gear, heading straight for them. Elena fired again. One went down. The others returned fire. Bullets chewed through the wall beside her head. She ducked, rolled. Her leg buckled, but she forced it to hold. Kara swung the crutch like a club, caught one mercenary across the jaw. He went down hard. The third raised his weapon. Elena shot him twice in the chest. He dropped. Silence, broken only by ragged breathing and distant gunfire. "Everyone okay?" Elena called. Chorus of frightened yeses. The smoke began to clear. Outside, the battle was turning. Kael's wolves were overwhelming the mercenaries through sheer ferocity. The humans had training, but the wolves had rage. Within 20 minutes, it was over. Elena limped outside. Bodies littered the courtyard. Most were unconscious or wounded, not dead. Kael's wolves had shown restraint. She found Kael in human form, covered in blood that wasn't his. He saw her and crossed the space in seconds. "You're bleeding," he said. She looked down. A graze on her shoulder. She hadn't even felt it. "I'm fine." "You're not fine, you're—" He stopped, pulled her into a crushing hug. "You're alive. So are you." This time. They stood there surrounded by chaos, holding onto each other like anchors. "It's not over," Elena said into his chest. "I know. They'll send more." "I know. So what do we do?" He pulled back, looked at her with eyes that had seen 2 centuries of war and still somehow found hope. "We make sure they can't," he said. "We take this public, use the evidence, expose them so completely that they can't hide anymore." "How?" "The council meets in 3 days, full assembly. Every alpha in the territory will be there. We present everything we have, force them to act. What if they don't?" "Then we make them." His voice hardened. "I'm the Alpha King. I have authority. And if they try to strip it, they'll have to go through me first." Elena nodded slowly. "And the girls?" "We'll testify, if they're willing." "They will be." She thought of Mara, of Kara, of 21 others who'd survived hell. They deserve to be heard. "Then that's what we'll do." Kael cupped her face. "You started a war, Elena Cross." "I know. Good. Let's finish it." The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Lawyers, documents, testimony coaching. Elena worked with each girl individually, helping them understand what would happen at the council meeting. Some were terrified. Others were angry. All of them were brave. Dr. Voss confirmed that 15 of the girls showed signs of poisoning. He began detox protocols immediately. Several had already started showing signs of their wolves stirring. Sarah provided more evidence. Names of other compounds, financial records, a paper trail that connected the syndicate to dozens of illegal operations across the territory. Elena's brothers were arrested. She didn't go to see them, didn't need to. They were done. On the morning of the council meeting, Elena stood in front of a mirror, trying to recognize herself. Her leg was healing faster than Dr. Voss had predicted. She could walk now with minimal limping. Her wolf's regeneration was remarkable. She looked stronger, healthier, like someone who mattered. Mira appeared in the doorway. "It's time." Elena nodded, followed her downstairs. The council hall was massive, amphitheater-style seating that could hold hundreds. Every seat was filled. Alphas from across the territory, their advisors, their mates, all watching. Kyle stood at the center podium, Elena joined him. Behind them, the 23 girls filed in. They'd all agreed to stand together. The head counselor, an ancient alpha named Thaddeus, called the meeting to order. "We're here to address serious allegations," Thaddeus said. "Alpha King Draven has brought evidence of systematic abuse within our territory. We will hear his testimony and review the evidence." Kale stepped forward, his voice carried to every corner of the hall. "For decades, a criminal syndicate has operated in our territory. They've been trafficking unshifted girls, poisoning them to keep them weak, selling them into forced labor, and they've done it with impunity because no one wanted to look too closely." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Kyle continued, "I have medical evidence, financial records, testimony from survivors. The operation was widespread, profitable, and protected by individuals we trusted." He pulled out a document, including former counselor Gregor Thorne. Gasps, shouts, chaos. Thaddeus slammed his gavel. "Order," Kale pressed on. "These girls were told they were worthless, that they deserved what happened to them. But the truth is, they were deliberately sabotaged. Their wolves were stolen from them before they even had a chance to emerge." He gestured to Elena. "This is Elena Cross. She's one of the survivors, and she has something to say." Elena stepped forward, every eye in the room fixed on her. For a moment, she froze. All that attention, all that judgment. Then she thought of Mara, of Kara, of every girl behind her who needed someone to speak. "My name is Elena Cross," she said. Her voice shook at first, then steadied. "I was sold by my own brothers to Coldridge compound. I was told I was unshifted because I was defective, weak, broken. But the truth is I was poisoned from childhood. My family, people who were supposed to protect me, fed me silver and wolfsbane for years, just so they could sell me when they needed money." The room was dead silent. "I'm not unique," Elena continued. "There are dozens of girls like me, maybe hundreds. All of them were told the same lies. All of them suffered the same abuse, and all of them deserve justice." She locked eyes with Thaddeus. "You can choose to ignore this, to protect the people who profited, or you can do what's right. Shut down every compound, prosecute everyone involved, and make sure this never happens again." Thaddeus studied her. "And if we choose wrong?" Kale's voice cut through. "Then I'll exercise my right as Alpha King to declare this a territorial emergency and act unilaterally. And anyone who stands against me stands against these girls." The threat was clear, unmistakable. The council erupted into argument, but Elena noticed something. Several of the alphas were nodding, agreeing, looking at the girls with something like shame. Finally, Thaddeus raised his hand for silence. "We will vote," he said. "All in favor of immediate investigation and prosecution of the syndicate operations?" Hands rose. Elena counted. 12. 13. 15. More than half. "Motion carries," Thaddeus declared. "All syndicate facilities will be raided within the week. All individuals involved will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of pack law." And he looked at Elena. "Survivors will be offered full medical support and integration into pack society if they choose." The room erupted into applause. Elena couldn't breathe. It was over. They'd won. Behind her, Mara was crying. Kara was grinning. The other girls were hugging each other. Kale's hand found hers squeezed. "You did it," he murmured. "We did it." But even in victory, Elena knew this was just the beginning. Rescuing the girls was one thing, helping them heal, helping them rebuild. That would take years. And she'd be there for all of it. As they left the council hall, wolves who'd sneered at her weeks ago now bowed their heads in respect. The girl they'd dismissed as worthless had just forced the entire territory to change. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in gold and fire. Elena looked at Kyle. "What now?" "Now we build something better," he said. "A place where girls like you aren't prey, where strength isn't the only thing that matters." "That's a big promise." "Good thing I have you to help me keep it." She smiled. For the first time in her life, the future didn't look like a trap. It looked like possibility, and Elena was ready to fight for every inch of it. It looked like possibility. But possibility, Elena learned over the next 3 months, was just another word for hard work dressed up in hope. The council's vote had been unanimous in the end. But votes didn't dismantle decades of corruption overnight. Raids on syndicate compounds across the territory revealed horrors worse than Coldridge. Girls kept in cages, children poisoned before they could walk, entire families complicit in the trade. Each rescue brought more survivors to Kael's fortress. The East Wing overflowed. They converted the West Wing, then the South. By the end of the first month, they were housing 87 girls ranging from 12 to 30 years old. Elena threw herself into the work, physical therapy in the mornings to rebuild her shredded leg, training sessions in the afternoons with the girls who were strong enough, late nights reviewing case files, coordinating with Dr. Voss on detox schedules, planning integration programs. She barely slept, barely ate. When Kael tried to get her to slow down, she'd just look at him with those ice blue eyes and say, "Which girl should I abandon first?" He never had an answer for that. On a cold morning in early spring, Elena stood in what used to be the fortress's banquet hall. They'd converted it into a training facility. Mats covered the floor, punching bags hung from reinforced beams. 20 girls in various stages of recovery were working through combat drills. Mara was among them. She'd shifted for the first time 2 weeks ago, a sleek gray wolf, smaller than Elena's, but fast. Watching her move now with confidence she'd never had at Coldridge made something in Elena's chest ache in a good way. Kara was leading the group through defensive maneuvers. She'd become Elena's unofficial second-in-command, fierce and uncompromising. Her wolf had emerged 3 days after detox finished, midnight black and built for fighting. "Arms up," Kara barked. "If someone grabs you, what do you do?" "Break the thumb," a chorus of voices answered. "And if that doesn't work?" "Go for the eyes." "Good." Again. Elena watched from the doorway, leaning on her cane. Her leg had healed enough to walk unaided, but the cane helped on bad days. Dr. Voss said the limp might be permanent. She'd learned to live with it. Kael appeared beside her. He'd gotten quieter over the past months, the weight of managing both his kingdom and this growing refuge pressing down on him. Gray streaked his temples now, that hadn't been there before. "The council wants another update," he said. Elena didn't look away from the training. "Tell them we've integrated 42 girls into Pack Society. 18 have shifted. The rest are still in detox or recovery. They want to know when they'll be self-sufficient. When they're ready, not before." "Elena, I know what you're going to say." She finally turned to him. "The fortress isn't designed to be a permanent shelter. We're draining resources. Some of the alphas are getting impatient." She straightened. "Tell them I don't care." His expression softened. "I'm not asking you to abandon anyone, but we need a long-term solution, something sustainable. I'm working on it." "Are you?" "Because from where I'm standing, you're working yourself to death trying to be everything to everyone." The words hit harder than they should have. "Someone has to," she said quietly. "Not alone." He took her hand. "You have me. You have Mira, Doctor. Voss, Kara. Let us help carry this." Elena wanted to argue, wanted to say she was fine, that she could handle it, but the exhaustion that had been building for months finally cracked through her armor. "I don't know how to stop," she admitted. "Every time I close my eyes, I see Coldridge. I see all the girls we haven't saved yet, and I know there are more compounds out there, more girls being poisoned, sold, broken. How do I rest knowing that?" "By trusting that you've already changed everything." Kael pulled her closer. 3 months ago, no one even acknowledged this was happening. Now it's the territory's top priority. You did that. Not me. You. We're not done. No. But you're allowed to breathe while we keep fighting. She leaned into him, borrowing his strength for a moment. In the training hall, the girls continued their drills, building themselves into something the world couldn't break. That's when Mira burst through the door. "We have a situation," she said. "Iron Hollow is here." Elena's blood went cold. "Who from Iron Hollow?" "Everyone. The entire town leadership. They're demanding an audience." Kael's jaw tightened. "Did they say why?" "No, but they're armed, and they brought media." Media. That complicated things. Elena looked at Kael. "This is about my brothers." "Probably." Marcus and Dimitri Cross had been in custody for 3 months awaiting trial. Their lawyers had been stalling, filing motions, claiming their clients were being persecuted. The case was high profile, the first major prosecution stemming from the syndicate investigations. "Let me handle this," Elena said. "Absolutely not. They sold you, which is exactly why I should face them. She straightened, set aside her cane. This needs to end, and it needs to end publicly. Kyle studied her. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. They gathered in the main courtyard. 20 people from Iron Hollow stood in a tight cluster. Town council members, business owners, a few reporters with cameras. And at the center, looking smaller and meaner than Elena remembered, stood Marcus and Dmitri. They weren't in custody. Someone had released them. Elena stepped forward. Kyle stayed at her shoulder, a silent threat. The town's mayor, a thick-necked man named Walsh, stepped forward. Elena Cross. We've come to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate, Elena said. Your town was complicit in trafficking. Multiple families have been implicated. Justice isn't negotiable. Your brothers made mistakes. My brothers poisoned and sold me. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. Marcus finally spoke. You were a burden, couldn't shift, couldn't contribute. We did what we had to do to survive. The casual cruelty of it, the complete lack of remorse, made Elena's wolf snarl beneath her skin. You survived by selling girls, she said. Each word was ice. How many, Marcus? How many before me? He didn't answer. 12, Dmitri said. His voice was hollow. Over 5 years, 12 girls. The reporter's cameras swiveled. One of them called out, Did you say 12? Walsh tried to intervene. This is a private matter. No, Elena cut him off. This is a public matter, because those 12 girls deserved better. And so did I. She looked at the cameras. For years, Iron Hollow profited off trafficking. They called it work programs and service opportunities. But the truth is they were selling their own daughters, their sisters, anyone they deemed worthless. That's not fair, Walsh protested. We didn't know. You knew. Elena's voice cracked like a whip. Everyone knew. You just didn't care. A reporter pushed forward. What do you want to happen? Good question. Elena had thought about this moment for months. What justice looked like. What revenge tasted like. I want the truth, she said. I want every family involved prosecuted. I want the victims compensated. And I want Iron Hollow to publicly acknowledge what they did and commit to never letting it happen again. That's impossible, Walsh said. You're asking us to destroy our own town. You destroyed it yourselves. I'm just asking you to own it. The crowd murmured. Some of them looked ashamed. Others looked angry. Marcus stepped forward. You think you're better than us now? Because you shifted? Because you found yourself a powerful mate? He sneered. You're still the same worthless girl we raised, just wearing a different skin. Elena could have responded with words, could have defended herself. Instead, she shifted. The transformation was smooth now, controlled. Seconds later, her wolf stood where the girl had been, white blonde and massive, radiating the kind of dominance that made weaker wolves bare their throats. She stalked toward Marcus. He stumbled backward. When she was close enough that her breath fogged his face, she shifted back, stood naked and unconcerned in front of the cameras, because modesty was a luxury she'd never been afforded anyway. Mira rushed forward with a robe. Elena took it, pulled it on without breaking eye contact with her brother. I'm not the same girl, she said quietly. That girl died in Coldridge. What stands here now is what you created when you tried to break me. So thank you, Marcus. Thank you for showing me exactly who I never want to become. She turned to Walsh. You have 48 hours to meet our terms. Full cooperation with investigations, public accountability, reparations for victims. If you refuse, I'll make sure every media outlet in the territory knows exactly what Iron Hollow really is. You can't threaten us. It's not a threat. It's a promise. She looked at the reporters. Make sure you get all of this, every word. They did. The cameras kept rolling as Walsh tried to save face, as Marcus and Dmitri were led away by Kyle's guards, as the Iron Hollow delegation scattered. By evening, the footage was everywhere. Elena's transformation, her confrontation with her brothers, her demands for justice. The public response was immediate and overwhelming. Other survivors came forward. More compounds were exposed. The syndicate's infrastructure began to collapse under the weight of scrutiny. 3 days later, Iron Hollow capitulated. Full cooperation, public apology, reparations fund established. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough to undo the damage. But it was a start. By 6 months after the council vote, Elena stood in front of a building that hadn't existed a month ago. The Sanctuary, they called it. A compound redesigned from the ground up, not for imprisonment, but for healing. Medical facilities, training halls, classrooms, housing for over 200 people. It had been Kael's idea. Use the seized syndicate assets to build something permanent. A place where survivors could rebuild without fear. But it had been Elena's vision that shaped it. Every detail designed with the girls in mind. Privacy, safety, choice. Today was opening day. Survivors from across the territory had gathered. Some Elena knew. Others were strangers. All of them carried the same haunted look she'd seen in the mirror for years. She addressed them from a small stage in the main courtyard. "I'm not going to tell you that everything will be okay," she said, "because that's a lie. Some days will be terrible. Some days you'll want to give up. Some days the people who hurt you will invade your thoughts and make you feel small again." The crowd was silent, listening. "But here's what I can tell you. You're stronger than they said you were. You're worth more than they made you believe, and you're not alone anymore." She gestured to the building behind her. "This place exists because we refuse to let what happened to us happen to anyone else. It exists because we chose to fight back." Mara stood in the front row, tears streaming, Kara beside her, jaw set with determination. "The sanctuary isn't just a building," Elena continued. "It's proof that we survived, that we're surviving, and eventually, when we're ready, that we'll thrive." Applause started small, then grew, until it echoed off the walls. After the ceremony, Elena walked through the facility, checking rooms, talking to staff, making sure everything was perfect. She found Kael in what would become the library. He was placing books on shelves, everything from combat manuals to romance novels. "Diverse collection," she said. He smiled. "Figured people might want to read about happy endings." "Do those exist?" "We're building one, slowly." She moved beside him, helped shelve books. They worked in comfortable silence. "The council approved your petition," Kael said eventually. Elena's hands stilled. "They did?" "Unanimously. You're officially recognized as the sanctuary's director. Full autonomy. Protected funding." He pulled out a document. "You're also being granted a territory seat." She stared at the paper. A council seat. She'd be one of the decision makers for the entire Northern Territory. "I don't want politics," she said. "It's not about politics. It's about making sure people like you have a voice at the highest levels." He set down the book he was holding. "You've already changed everything, Elena. This just makes it official." She read the document. Her name in formal script. Elena Cross, Director of Sanctuary Operations. Council Representative for Survivor Advocacy. It was real, permanent. "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Good. The best leaders usually are." "I don't feel like a leader. I feel like someone barely holding it together." "That's because you care. The ones who don't care are the dangerous ones." He took her hand. "You're going to be incredible at this. You already are." She wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe she could carry this responsibility without breaking under the weight. But doubt was a persistent companion. The first major test came 2 months later. A compound in the Western Territory refused to cooperate with investigations. They'd fortified their position, claimed religious exemption, threatened violence if anyone tried to raid them. The council debated for weeks. Some wanted to back down. Others wanted to send in troops. Elena sat through the arguments, listening, learning. Finally, she stood. "I'll go," she said. The room went silent. "Alone?" Thaddeus asked. "With a small team, survivors who volunteered. We'll go in as negotiators, not attackers." "That's suicide," another council member said. "Maybe, but if we go in with force, those girls inside will be caught in the crossfire. They're prisoners, not enemies." Elena pulled out a map. "I've been studying this compound. They have 48 girls inside. Most of them are underage. If we attack, people will die. And if we negotiate, they'll stall," Gregor said. He'd been stripped of his council position, but allowed to speak as an advisor. His testimony against the syndicate had earned him some leniency. "Then we'll call their bluff," Elena said. "But we try diplomacy first." Kale was shaking his head. Absolutely not. I won't let you walk into a hostile compound. You don't let me do anything. Her voice was firm, but not unkind. I'm a council member now. I have authority, and I'm using it. The vote was close, but it passed. 3 days later, Elena stood at the gates of the western compound with Mara, Kara, and 2 other survivors who'd volunteered. They were unarmed, wearing white to signal peace. The compound's leader, a gaunt man named Ezekiel, met them at the gate. You're not welcome here, he said. We're not here to fight, Elena replied. We're here to talk. About what? About the girls you're holding, about the poison you're feeding them, about giving them a choice. Ezekiel's expression hardened. They've already chosen to serve, to contribute, to be useful. That's not a choice. That's coercion. Elena stepped closer. I was where they are. I know what you tell them, that they're broken, that they deserve this. But it's a lie. You know nothing about our ways. I know you're afraid. She could see it in his eyes. You're afraid that if these girls shift, if they become strong, they won't need you anymore. And you'll lose your power. His face flushed. Get out. Not without those girls. Then you'll die here. Guards appeared on the walls, armed, ready. Elena didn't move. Kill me if you want, she said. But those cameras... She pointed to the news crews Kale had positioned a mile away with telephoto lenses. They're watching, and if you kill a council member in cold blood, every pack in the territory will come for you. Ezekiel's jaw worked. He was trapped, and he knew it. What do you want? He finally asked. Let me talk to the girls, alone. Let them hear the truth, and then let them choose. And if they choose to stay, then we leave. He didn't believe her, but the cameras were rolling and he was out of options. 1 hour, he said. They were led inside. The compound was worse than Coldridge. Girls in cages, barely fed, some too weak to stand. Elena moved through the space, talking quietly to each one, telling them the truth, telling them about the sanctuary, about detox, about the possibility of shifting. Most were too broken to respond, but a few listened, hope flickering in dead eyes. When the hour was up, Ezekiel returned. Well? He demanded. Elena looked at the girls. Who wants to leave? Silence, long and heavy. Then one girl, maybe 14, raised her hand. Then another and another. 32 girls out of 48 chose freedom. Ezekiel's face went purple. You're poisoning their minds. I'm giving them truth, something you never did. Elena turned to the girls who'd chosen to stay. If you ever change your minds, the sanctuary will be there. They left with 32 girls. It took 3 vehicles to transport them all. As they drove away, Kara said, The ones who stayed are victims too, Elena finished. But you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. We can only offer the door. They have to walk through it. 2 of the girls who stayed changed their minds within a week. By the end of the month, 46 of the original 48 had chosen freedom. The compound closed. Ezekiel was arrested. And Elena's reputation as someone who fought with compassion instead of just force spread across the territory. A year after the council vote, Elena stood in the sanctuary's central hall. They were hosting a celebration. The first group of girls to complete the full integration program were being honored. 23 women who'd survived hell and rebuilt themselves into something unbreakable. Mara was among them. She'd become a trainer, teaching self-defense to new arrivals. Kara had taken a position as head of security. No one got into the sanctuary without her approval. Others had found their own paths. Teachers, healers, artists, mothers. Watching them laugh and dance and exist without fear made everything worthwhile. Kale found Elena near the back of the room. You should be up there, he said. They're celebrating because of you. They're celebrating because of themselves. I just opened the door. You did more than that. He pulled her onto the dance floor. You changed the entire structure of how we think about strength, about worth. She let him lead. Her legs still ached on bad days, but she'd learned to dance anyway. I got a message from the Southern Territory, Kale said. They want to build their own sanctuary, using our model. We should help them. I was hoping you'd say that. He spun her gently. You're going to run out of hours in the day eventually. Probably, but not today. The song ended, another began. They kept dancing. Later, when the party wound down and the guests departed, Elena walked through the empty halls, checking locks, making sure everyone was safe. She found Mira in the medical wing, updating charts. "You should go home," Elena said. "So should you." Mira set down her pen. "But we won't, because this place doesn't sleep." "No, but the people in it do." Elena sat. "How are the new arrivals?" "Settling, scared, hopeful." Mira pulled out a file. "There's one I'm worried about. 16, heavily poisoned. She's not responding to treatment." "What does Dr. Voss say?" "That we might lose her." Elena's chest tightened. "I want to see her." They walked to the recovery room. The girl, Sarah, the chart said, lay unconscious in bed. Monitors beeped steadily. She was small, fragile-looking, too young to have survived what she had. Elena sat beside the bed, took the girl's hand. "Sarah," she said quietly, "my name is Elena. I know you can't hear me, but I need you to fight. I need you to hold on, because there's so much waiting for you on the other side of this. Strength, freedom, a life that's yours." The monitors kept beeping, steady, unchanging. "Please," Elena whispered, "don't give up." She stayed there for hours, holding a stranger's hand, willing her to live. When dawn came, Sarah's eyes opened. "Where am I?" she rasped. "Somewhere safe," Elena said. "Somewhere you get to choose what happens next." Sarah's fingers tightened around hers. "I want to live." "Then live. We'll help you." Dr. Voss said later that Sarah's recovery was miraculous, that she shouldn't have survived the level of poisoning in her system. But Elena knew better. Miracles had nothing to do with it. Sarah survived because she decided to, because someone had given her a reason. That's what the sanctuary did. It gave people reasons. Shut. 2 years after that frozen morning when she'd been sold at dawn, Elena Cross stood before the full territorial council. She wore formal robes now, council regalia. She'd earned it through blood and stubbornness, and refusing to quit when quitting would have been easier. The chamber was packed. Every alpha in the territory, their advisors, media representatives. This was the final vote on the legislation she'd spent 18 months crafting, the Anti-Trafficking and Survivor Protection Act. It would make poisoning illegal, mandate medical screenings, establish sanctuaries in every territory, fund education programs, create penalties so severe that no one would dare resurrect the syndicate. It was comprehensive, revolutionary, and facing serious opposition from traditionalists who thought she was overstepping. Thaddeus called for opening statements. Elena stood. 2 years ago, I was sold by my own family. I was weak, powerless, told I was worthless because I couldn't shift. But the truth is, I was deliberately sabotaged, poisoned for years. And I'm not unique. Hundreds of girls across this territory suffered the same fate. She paused. Let that sink in. This legislation isn't about vengeance. It's about making sure no child ever has to wonder if they're defective because someone stole their future. It's about accountability, about saying that strength isn't just physical and that every life in this territory matters. Opposition spoke next. Arguments about cost, about government overreach, about tradition. Elena listened, waited. When it was her turn again, she simply said, "You can vote against this. You can protect your budgets and your traditions. But those girls you're sacrificing to do it, they'll remember. And one day, they'll be standing where I am, making sure you can never do to anyone else what you did to them." The vote was called. Elena watched hands rise, counted, 23 in favor, 18 against, 5 abstentions. It passed. The chamber erupted, some cheering, some protesting. Elena just stood there, letting it wash over her. 2 years ago, she'd been nobody, nothing. Now she was someone who changed laws. But more importantly, she was someone who gave hope to people who had none. That night, Elena and Kyle sat on the fortress roof, watching stars emerge. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." "We did it. I couldn't have Don't." He cut her off gently. "This was you, your vision, your fight. I just provided the platform." She leaned into him. "What happens now?" "Now the real work begins. Implementation, training, building more sanctuaries. He paused. And you'll lead all of it. Terrifying. You say that about everything. Because everything is terrifying. His laugh rumbled through his chest. The most powerful woman in the territory. And she's afraid of everything. Not everything. She looked up at him. Not you. You should be. I'm terrifying. You're a marshmallow. Take that back. Make me. He kissed her instead. Soft and deep and tasting like promises they'd both keep. When they broke apart, Elena said, "Do you ever regret it? Claiming me that day at Coldridge? Every day." She pulled back, hurt flashing across her face. He caught her chin. "I regret that I didn't find you sooner, that you had to suffer as long as you did, that I couldn't protect you from any of it." His thumb brushed her cheek. "But claiming you, loving you, best decision I've ever made. Even though I'm impossible, especially because you're impossible." They sat in silence, wrapped in each other, until the stars filled the sky. 5 years later, the Sanctuary Network spanned 7 territories. Over 2,000 girls had been rescued, 80% had shifted, 95% had integrated successfully into pack society. The syndicate was gone. Dismantled so completely that even its memory was fading. Elena had stepped back from day-to-day operations. Mara ran the original sanctuary now. Kara had become head of the Territorial Security Oversight Committee. Sarah, the girl who'd almost died in detox, was training to be a doctor. Elena and Kyle had moved to a smaller residence near the mountains. She still served on the council, still advocated. But she'd learned to delegate, to trust others to carry the work forward. On a spring morning, she stood in the garden she'd planted. Tomatoes and herbs and flowers that had no purpose except beauty. Kale found her there, hands dirty, hair pulled back, looking more at peace than she'd ever been. "There's someone here to see you," he said. "Who?" "Come see." She followed him inside. A young woman stood in the living room, early 20s, confident, strong. It took Elena a moment to recognize her. "Mara?" "Hi." Mara smiled. "I know I should have called first, but I wanted to tell you in person." "Tell me what?" "I'm pregnant." Her hand went to her still flat stomach. "It's early, but Dr. Voss confirmed it yesterday." Elena's eyes filled. "Mara, I wanted to thank you, because 5 years ago, I was dying in Coldridge. I'd given up, and you came back for me. You fought for me, and now I'm going to be a mother." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm going to give my daughter everything I never had. Safety, choice, freedom, because you gave those things to me first." They held each other, crying, while Kyle watched with an expression that might have been the closest thing to tears Elena had ever seen on his face. Later, after Mara left, Elena and Kyle walked through the forest. No particular destination, just moving. "Do you ever think about it?" Elena asked. "Where we'd be if things had gone differently?" "All the time." And I'm grateful for every terrible thing that brought you to me." He stopped walking, turned to face her. "You were sold at dawn, broken and afraid. And you turned that into something that saved thousands of lives. You didn't just survive, you transformed everything. We transformed everything." "No," he cupped her face. "I provided resources. You provided the vision, the courage, the absolute refusal to give up even when giving up made sense." He smiled. "They didn't sell a burden that morning. They unleashed a revolution, and I got to watch you burn down everything that tried to break you." Elena kissed him, long and slow and full of everything words couldn't hold. When they pulled apart, she said, "I love you." "I know, I'm very lovable." She laughed, hit his shoulder. "You're impossible." "So are you. It's why we work." They walked home together, through a forest that didn't feel dangerous anymore, toward a life they'd built from the ashes of the one she'd escaped. That night, Elena stood at her window, looking out at the sanctuary lights in the distance, thinking about all the girls sleeping safely, all the futures that were possible now because someone had believed they were worth saving. The girl who'd been sold at dawn was gone. In her place stood something they'd never intended to create, a survivor, a leader, a force of change, a queen. Not because someone crowned her, but because she'd claimed the title herself through every fight, every refusal to break, every moment she chose to stand when falling would have been easier. They sold her for scraps. They got a revolution. And Elena Cross, once worthless, once broken, once thrown away, had proven that the most dangerous thing in the world wasn't strength or power or dominance. It was a woman who decided she was done being prey. The dawn broke over the mountains, painting the sky in gold and fire. A new day, a new beginning. Elena watched it rise with a smile on her face and iron in her bones. She'd survived, she'd thrived, and she wasn't done yet, not even close.